Hi friends of cocktails! Today we're making a cocktail time version of a New York Sour. This is the Naked York Sour, made with a Naked Grouse blended malt whiskey and a cherry pit syrup. On top, we added the foaming combination of the egg white and the wine float. I also added some gum syrup and cherry bitters into the foam and expressed a lemon peel over the top. The result is amazing. I'll be using a cream whipper for the foam and a sous vide cooker for the syrup. But for the cocktail this good, it's worth the effort. Fresh and citrusy on the nose, with a fruity Pinot Noir and cherries being very present as well. That's also what you'll taste first, through the rich and airy foam, with the blended malt whiskey holding its ground to make it an excellent New York Sour. The egg white tames the tannins in both the wine and the Scotch whiskey, while the subtle nutty cherry notes blend both of them into a long, fruity and fresh aftertaste. This is an elevated New York Sour. It's so good, I'd almost feel bad if I was the only one to enjoy it. So I'll show you how to make it. It's cocktail time. To make a New York Sour, you'll need whiskey, lemon, sugar, egg white and red wine. The whiskey I'll use is the Naked Grouse blended malt Scotch whiskey. It's made with a specially selected blend of single malts, extra matured in first fill Oloroso sherry oak casks. The result is a rich and fruity whiskey with a soft spiced finish. Great choice for this cocktail. To balance the lemon and to give our cocktail subtle nutty and cherry notes, we'll use a cherry pit syrup. And as you saw, we're not using the typical red wine float of the New York Sour or an egg white, but a foamy mixture of both. One thing to clear up is the name. A whiskey sour with both egg white and wine float is technically called a Greenwich Sour, but nobody really calls it that. It's usually just a New York Sour with or without the egg white. If you like your New York Sours with the egg white added, you'll love this foamy combination of both. Here's how to make it and the cherry pit syrup. To make the syrup, you'll need to pit a lot of cherries. I used a cherry pitter, which works great, but as you'll see later, a spit pourer is also a good option. This recipe is of course a great way to reduce waste when making cherry pies, jams, or just eating the cherries because they're delicious. You could also make homemade preserved cherries for a cheaper variation of the famous Luxardo cherries. I've been working on a recipe for those, so expect a cocktail engineering episode about that. If you're trying to be really sustainable, you can even make a syrup with cherry stems. SustainableBartender.com has a recipe for that. I'll leave a link in the description. I'm aiming for around 200 ml of the syrup, so I'll need to pit a few more cherries to get 60 grams of the pits. To that I'll add 150 ml of water and cook on low heat for 15 minutes. Keep the lid on so you're not losing all that delicious cherry steam. I'm just kidding. We'll weigh how much of the water we're left with as we transfer this to a sous vide bag, which is already on a kitchen scale. Assuming we still have 60 grams of cherry pits, you can calculate how much water you're left with. To make this a 1-to-1 syrup, I'll add an equal amount of sugar. Before we place it in a sous vide cooker, we need to carefully vacuum and seal the bag. It's always smart to go with a double seal, just in case. We'll cook this for 2.5 hours at 70 degrees Celsius or 160 Fahrenheit. In the meantime, let's make the egg white and wine foam. We'll need 2 egg whites, so start with separating 2 eggs. It's always a good idea to separate the eggs into a different vessel. And like we mentioned in the egg whites episode, make sure you clean your hands and the surface afterwards. Into a bowl, measure out 180 ml or 6 ounces of red wine. The Pinot Noir I'm using is fruity on the nose, with cherries and other red fruits, but it will provide enough body to really complement the cocktail, even in a foam. For some extra cherry notes in the foam, I'll add my homemade cherry bitters. 4 dashes will be enough to give extra depth and flavor to the foam. And to make sure, the foam is just as balanced as the whole cocktail, 7.5 ml or 1/4 ounce of 2-to-1 gum syrup. I made this in the basic syrups episode. After adding the egg whites, I'll mix this up with a milk frother. This will break apart the egg whites before we add everything into the cream whipper. Since mine is only half a liter, one N2O cartridge will be enough. If you're using a bigger siphon, you'll get better results if you use 2 cartridges. Place this in the fridge to chill for at least 30 minutes. I'll get back to making the cherry pit syrup. When it's done cooking, strain the contents of the bag over a cheesecloth. Give that a gentle squeeze, and your syrup is ready to be bottled, chilled and used. If you made extra and you want to keep it for when cherries aren't in season, you can freeze the syrup as well. Let me know in the comments what cocktail you think this syrup would work great in. Now let's make my version of the New York Sour. We are not using any clarified ingredients this time, so we're making a shaking cocktail. Chill your shaker, then start with 60 ml or 2 ounces of our blended malt Scotch whiskey. The Naked in the Naked Grouse comes from the sherry casks used for maturing this Scotch. They're called Naked because they've never held whiskey before. To that, I'll add equal amounts of freshly squeezed lemon juice and our cherry pit syrup, 22.5 ml or 3/4 of an ounce. I find that a 2:1 ratio in a sour cocktail almost overpowers the spirit, especially in the New York Sour, so I like to use a little less of the sweet and sour components. As we often do in our sour cocktails, a drop of saline solution to enhance all of the flavors. Drain the ice before giving the cocktail a good shake to chill and dilute. I'll serve this in a double old-fashioned glass over a large block of ice. Make sure you're left with some space on the top for our foam. Give the cream whipper a good shake, then gently top up the cocktail with the egg white and wine foam. All of the foam should be used within a day or 2. Last step for a bright citrusy aroma is to express the oils from a lemon peel. With a rich foamy crown, this cocktail doesn't need a garnish. If you like the Naked York Sour, we've made quite a few cocktails with the foamy head and other signature creations. Enjoy your cocktail time, and I'll see you next week. Cheers! New York Sour with or without the egg white. Show you how to make it. Spet sem gor gleda mikrofon.